The champagne flute hit the marble floor like a gunshot. Crystal exploded into 1,000 glittering pieces, amber liquid spreading across white stone. The dining room of La Maison Dorée went silent. Forks paused mid-air. Conversations died. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward table 7. Keisha Monroe stood frozen, her tray tilted at a dangerous angle. The remaining glasses wobbled but held. Her white shirt was crisp despite the double shift. Her black slacks had been ironed that morning in the dark while her daughter slept. Marcus Sterling leaned back in his chair, arms spread wide like a king surveying peasants. His navy suit probably cost more than Keisha's car. The Rolex on his wrist caught candlelight, threw gold across his smirking face. Did you see that? His voice carried across the restaurant, designed to perform. I asked for champagne, not a floor show. Nervous laughter rippled through nearby tables. Keisha's jaw tightened. She crouched carefully, setting her tray down to gather the broken glass. Leave it, Marcus's voice turned sharp. That's what janitors are for. You just bring the drinks. If you can manage that. His 3 companions, tech executives in identical expensive suits, shifted uncomfortably. One cleared his throat. None spoke up. Keisha straightened slowly. Her hands didn't shake. Years of waitressing had taught her control. She met his eyes for exactly 2 seconds, long enough to show dignity, short enough to avoid being called insubordinate. I'll bring you another glass immediately, sir. Sir. Marcus drew the word out, mocking. So polite, so proper. He looked at his companions. Doesn't she seem like she's trying very hard to belong somewhere she doesn't? The silence that followed had texture, heavy, suffocating. Keisha turned toward the kitchen. Behind her, Marcus's laughter echoed off marble walls and crystal chandeliers. The sound would follow her home. It would keep her awake. It would change everything. She didn't know it yet, but she'd just met the man she would destroy, 12 hours earlier. Keisha's alarm went off at 5:47 a.m. She silenced it before the second beep, muscle memory from years of not waking her daughter. The apartment was dark and cold. November in the city meant thin walls couldn't hold heat. She pulled on her robe and padded to the kitchen. The bills were where she'd left them, stacked on the cracked Formica table like a paper tower of worry. Hospital invoices for Maya's asthma treatments, past due notices for rent, a letter from the insurance company denying the latest claim. The math didn't work no matter how many times she recalculated. Her phone buzzed. Text from her manager. Need you for lunch and dinner shift, busy day. Translation. Rich people spending money while she scrambled for rent. Keisha made instant coffee and stood at the window. 6 floors below, the city was waking. Delivery trucks. Early commuters. People moving through their lives with purpose she used to feel. Before medical debt. Before single motherhood. Before the weight of it all settled on her shoulders like winter fog. She thought of her mother's voice. Gone 8 years now, but still present in moments like this. You carry yourself with dignity, baby girl. They can take your money. They can take your opportunities. But they can't take how you walk through the world. Keisha finished her coffee and checked on Maya. Her daughter slept curled around a stuffed elephant, breathing steady and clear. The nebulizer on the nightstand gleamed in streetlight. $200 a month in medications. Worth every penny to hear that easy breathing. She showered in 4 minutes, dressed in the dark. Her waitress uniform hung on the bathroom door, steam-pressed the night before. White shirt, black slacks, comfortable shoes that looked professional. Armor for serving people who would never see her face. The bus was late. It always was. Keisha stood at the stop, thinking about tips and rent math. She didn't think about revolution. She didn't think about justice. Not yet. Across the city, Marcus Sterling woke to soft sheets and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. His penthouse had cost $18 million. The view alone was worth it. He rolled out of bed without checking his phone. Meditation first, then gym, then the empire. His morning routine was profiled in 3 different business magazines, Marcus didn't cook. His chef prepared steel-cut oats with organic berries. He didn't drive. His driver waited in the garage with the Bentley idling. He didn't worry about money. Sterling Tech had just closed its third billion-dollar quarter. The company built predictive algorithms for financial markets. The technology was revolutionary. The media called Marcus a genius. He'd given a TED Talk about innovation. Harvard wanted him for a guest lecture series. He stood in his closet selecting a suit. Navy Brioni. White custom shirt. Italian leather shoes. The uniform of power. He caught his reflection and smiled. At 42, he'd built everything from nothing. Self-made, ruthless, untouchable. His phone buzzed with his daily schedule. Lunch at La Maison Dorée with potential investors. The restaurant had a 6-month waiting list. Marcus had a permanent table. He didn't think about the people who would serve him. He never did. They were furniture. Functional and forgettable. By noon their worlds would collide. La Maison Dorée smelled like old money and fresh flowers. Keisha clocked in at 11:43 a.m., 17 minutes early. She tied her apron in the staff room, checked her reflection in the cracked mirror. Presentable, professional, invisible in the way management preferred. Table 7 is yours. Her manager, Gerald, didn't look up from his clipboard. VIP, big tipper if you don't screw up. Table 7 sat in the center of the dining room. Power position. Everyone could see who occupied it. Marcus Sterling arrived at exactly noon with 3 men in expensive suits. They moved through the restaurant like sharks through water, confident, predatory. Keisha approached with menus and water glasses. She'd served thousands of tables. The routine was automatic. Smile, eye contact. Friendly but not familiar. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to La Maison Dorée. Marcus didn't look up. He was mid-sentence, explaining quarterly projections to his companions. Keisha waited. Protocol said never interrupt a VIP conversation. She stood silent, professional, holding the menus. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Marcus knew she was there. He was making her wait. A power play. Establishing hierarchy. Finally, he glanced up. His eyes traveled from her face to her uniform, to her hands, to her shoes. An assessment. Clinical and dismissive. What's the special? His tone suggested boredom. The Dover sole with lemon butter sauce and roasted. Is it fresh? Yes, sir. Delivered this morning from... You sure? Because I don't eat old fish. Unlike some establishments, I have standards. His companions shifted. One cleared his throat uncomfortably. Marcus's smile widened. Yes, sir. It's fresh. Chef Marcus personally inspects... Chef Marcus, he laughed. Interesting. You know a lot about the chef? Keisha felt the trap closing. Answer yes. She's presumptuous. Answer no. She's uninformed. I know the menu, sir. Do you? It wasn't a question. Then bring champagne. The Cristal. Room temperature. Can you manage that? Of course, sir. She returned with the bottle at perfect temperature. 68 degrees. She'd checked with the thermometer twice. She approached the table, presented the label for approval, began to pour. Stop. Marcus's hand shot up. Keisha froze, bottle tilted over the flute. That's too fast. You're pouring too fast. Are you trying to waste it? She adjusted. Slower. Textbook technique from her training manual. Now it's too slow. Jesus Christ, have you done this before? Her hand didn't shake. She finished pouring. 4 glasses. Perfect levels. No spills. Marcus picked up his glass, examined it like a jeweler inspecting a flawed diamond. Then he simply let go. The crystal hit the floor, exploded. Champagne spread across marble like liquid gold bleeding out. Oops, he said. His smile was a blade. Guess you should have held it steadier when you handed it to me. Keisha knew what he'd done. Everyone knew. The glass had never touched her hand. He'd dropped it himself. Deliberately, for sport. I'll bring another immediately, sir. No need. Marcus pulled out his phone, dismissing her. Just clean up your mess. And next time, try to be more careful. You people need to work on your coordination, you people." The words hung in the air like poison gas. His meaning was crystal clear. Not you waiters, not you staff. Something else entirely. Something deliberate. The restaurant's ambient noise disappeared. Conversation stopped. Nearby diners stared at their plates. No one said anything. No one moved. Keisha crouched to gather broken glass. Her hands still didn't shake. But inside something shifted. A tectonic plate deep in her core moving for the first time in years. She thought of her father, her daughter, her mother's voice. Dignity, baby girl, she stood, walked to the kitchen, and began planning something she didn't yet understand. The staff bathroom was the size of a closet. Keisha locked the door and gripped the porcelain sink. Her reflection stared back. Same face as this morning, same uniform, but something in her eyes had changed, hardened, crystallized. Her hands weren't shaking. That surprised her. She expected rage to manifest physically. Instead, she felt cold, clinical, like her emotions had been flash-frozen mid-eruption. "You people," the phrase echoed. She'd heard versions before. Casual racism wrapped in plausible deniability. Comments you couldn't quite call out without being labeled sensitive. Microaggressions, they called them in articles. Macro enough when you were on the receiving end. But this was different. Marcus Sterling had performed his contempt, made it entertainment for the lunch crowd. And they'd let him. Silence as complicity, averted eyes as endorsement. Keisha turned on the cold water and splashed her face. The shock helped, brought her back into her body. She dried off with rough paper towels and studied herself again, her mother's cheekbones, her father's dark eyes. Her daughter's hopeful smile reflected back at different angles. 3 generations in one face, 3 histories of endurance. Her father's voice surfaced from memory. Leonard Monroe had been gentle but firm, a patent attorney who worked 70-hour weeks so Keisha could have dance lessons and summer camp. He died when she was 19. Cancer, fast and brutal. She remembered his office. Papers everywhere. Blueprints spread across tables. Late nights fueled by coffee and determination. He'd been working on something important before the illness took him. Something about technology, algorithms. She'd been too young to understand, too wrapped up in college applications and her own life. After his death, his colleagues had swept in, offered condolences and collected documents, said they'd handle his unfinished projects, make sure his work wasn't wasted. Keisha and her mother had been grateful, one less burden during grief. Now standing in a restaurant bathroom with champagne soaking into her shoes, Keisha wondered what they'd actually taken. She straightened her uniform, smoothed her hair, checked her expression. Professional mask back in place. When she returned to the dining room, table 7 was laughing. Marcus held court, gesturing broadly with his wine glass. He didn't look at her when she cleared their appetizer plates. She was furniture again, functional and forgettable. But Keisha saw something she'd missed before. Marcus wore a tie clip, small, silver, engraved with a logo, Sterling Tech, and somewhere deep in her memory, a blueprint stirred. Her father's handwriting, technical diagrams, a logo that looked almost identical. Almost. 22 years ago, Leonard Monroe worked from a cramped office in the financial district. The firm wasn't prestigious. Patent law didn't pay like corporate litigation, but Leonard loved the precision of it, the clean logic of invention and ownership. He specialized in technology patents, software, algorithms, the future Keisha remembered visiting on Saturdays. She'd been 16. Her father would buy her bagels from the corner deli and let her do homework at his conference table while he worked. The office always smelled like coffee and paper. "You know what I do, baby girl?" he'd asked once, looking up from a stack of documents. "You protect inventions." "Close, I protect inventors. The person who actually creates something deserves to own it. My job is making sure nobody steals their genius." He'd been passionate about it. Fought cases he knew wouldn't pay well because the principle mattered. Took on clients bigger firms ignored. Young engineers, immigrant programmers. Anyone with real innovation and limited resources. One client came regularly during Keisha's senior year, a young programmer in his 20s, ambitious, sharp suits even then. He'd invented something revolutionary. A predictive algorithm that could analyze market patterns with unprecedented accuracy. Leonard had been excited, called it game-changing technology, spent months perfecting the patent application. The paperwork covered his entire desk, blueprints, code sequences, mathematical proofs. The client's name was Marcus Sterling. Keisha remembered him vaguely, confident, charming. He'd shaken her hand once, called her Leonard's brilliant daughter, said he'd remember her when he made his billions. She'd thought it was just talk. Everyone in tech promised billions. Then Leonard got sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months from diagnosis to hospice. Too fast for goodbyes or finished business. His office was cleared by colleagues, while Keisha and her mother planned the funeral. Marcus Sterling sent flowers. An enormous arrangement. The card read, "Leonard helped me build my future. I'm forever grateful." Sterling Tech launched 6 months later. The core algorithm was revolutionary, industry-changing. Marcus became a media darling, the self-made genius who disrupted financial technology. Leonard's name appeared nowhere in the patents. Keisha's mother never questioned it. She assumed Leonard's work was preliminary, that Marcus had continued development after Leonard died. The legal language was too complex to challenge. They were grieving, overwhelmed. They let it go. But Leonard had been meticulous. He kept copies, backups, documentation in bankers' boxes stored in their basement. After her mother died, Keisha inherited everything. The boxes sat unopened for years. Moving from apartment to apartment, too painful to examine, too important to discard, they were in her storage unit now, dusty cardboard containing her father's legacy. Keisha had never looked inside, never connected the dots, until a champagne, glass shattered on marble floor, until Marcus Sterling's contempt made her remember his face from 22 years ago, until she realized the flowers he'd sent weren't gratitude. They were guilt. Her shift ended at 9. Keisha clocked out without speaking to anyone. Took 2 buses to the storage facility on the east side. The unit was small, 10 by 10. Packed with her life's discarded pieces, the boxes were in the back. 4 of them. Leonard Monroe's name written in her mother's handwriting. Keisha sat on the concrete floor and opened the first one. Inside, blueprints, patent applications, handwritten notes. Her father's precise drafting skills evident in every line. Technical diagrams for predictive algorithm software. Mathematical formulas, code architecture, and signatures. Leonard Monroe as patent attorney. Marcus Sterling as inventor, except the dates were wrong. The initial documentation was dated 3 years before Marcus claimed to have developed the technology. The handwriting on early drafts wasn't Marcus's, it was someone else's. An engineer named David Chen. Notes indicated Chen had come to Leonard first, seeking protection for his invention. Then Chen's name disappeared from later documents. Only Marcus's remained. Keisha pulled out her phone and searched David Chen, engineer, Sterling Tech. 1 result. An obituary from 19 years ago. David Chen, age 29, died in a car accident. Single vehicle. Late night. Ruled accidental. Her hands finally shook. Keisha spread the documents across her kitchen table at midnight. Maya was asleep. The apartment was silent except for the radiator's wheeze. Outside, the city glowed through thin curtains. She made coffee she wouldn't drink and began organizing papers chronologically. The story emerged like a photograph in developing solution. Slowly. Then suddenly, clear and damning, David Chen had invented the algorithm. He'd been brilliant, self-taught programmer from an immigrant family. No connections. No resources, just genius and ambition. He'd found Leonard Monroe through a community legal clinic. Leonard's notes were detailed. David couldn't afford patent fees. Leonard took the case pro bono, saw the potential, wanted to protect the young inventor from predators in the tech industry. Then Marcus Sterling entered the picture. He'd been David's roommate, introduced himself as a potential business partner, had connections, could help commercialize the technology. Leonard's notes turned cautious. Client uncertain about partnership terms. Advises waiting. 3 months later, David Chen was dead. 1 month after that, Marcus filed new patents. The same algorithm. His name alone. Different attorney. The filing claimed independent development. No mention of David. No mention of Leonard's preliminary work. Leonard had tried to fight it. His notes showed attempts to contact Marcus. Letters sent. Calls unreturned. Then the cancer diagnosis came. His fight ended before it began, but Leonard had kept everything. Every draft, every email, every piece of evidence that the algorithm wasn't Marcus's creation. He'd known, and he'd preserved the truth even when he couldn't speak it. Keisha found emails buried in the third box, printed and filed chronologically. One exchange stopped her cold. Marcus to Leonard. The Chen situation is unfortunate, but the technology can still change the world. I'm prepared to move forward. I hope you understand this is bigger than one person. Leonard's draft reply never sent. The technology belongs to David's family. What you're proposing is theft. I cannot and will not be party to this. No further communication existed. Leonard got sick 2 weeks later. Keisha's coffee had gone cold. Her hands pressed flat against the documents. Her father had known, had tried to stop it, had been silenced by disease before he could succeed. She thought of Marcus at the restaurant, his smirk, his casual cruelty. You people. The entitled confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences. He'd stolen brilliance from a dead immigrant, built billions on someone else's genius, wrapped himself in innovation stories while standing on a corpse, and he'd gotten away with it for 20 years. Keisha pulled out her phone, searched for patent attorneys specializing in intellectual property theft, found contact forms and office hours, but something stopped her from reaching out. Lawyers cost money, money she didn't have, and Marcus had armies of attorneys, resources beyond comprehension. One broke waitress with old documents wouldn't survive the legal war. She needed something else. A different approach. Her eyes fell on the documents again. Patents were public record. If she could prove the timeline, show David Chen's original work, demonstrate Marcus had access through their roommate relationship, connect Leonard's preliminary filings to the stolen final product, it wasn't just evidence. It was a roadmap to destruction. Outside her window, dawn approached. Keisha hadn't slept, didn't feel tired. She felt something else entirely. Focus, purpose, the thing her mother called dignity sharpening into something harder. Justice. She thought of Marcus's face when the truth came out. When his empire collapsed, when the world knew what he'd built it on, the thought should have scared her. Instead, she smiled. Then she began making copies of everything. Monday morning, Keisha wore her only blazer. The emerald green fabric was 5 years old. Still professional. She'd ironed it carefully and paired it with her best black pants. Not waitress clothes. Not armor for serving. Something else. The uniform of someone with purpose. Sterling Tech headquarters occupied 40 floors of downtown's most expensive high-rise. Glass and steel. Modern art in the lobby. Security guards at sleek desks. Keisha walked through the revolving doors at 9:15 a.m. Her heart hammered, but her face stayed calm. She approached the main security desk. I have a delivery for Marcus Sterling, personal. He's expecting it. The guard barely looked up. Leave it here. We'll log it. It requires his signature. Legal documents, that got attention. The guard straightened. You're a courier? I'm delivering papers he'll want to see immediately. Professional tone. No hesitation. The guard studied her face, then shrugged. "Leave it. We'll call his office." Keisha placed a manila envelope on the desk. The guard logged it, handed her a receipt, waved her away. She walked out the same revolving doors, feeling anticlimactic. No dramatic confrontation. No security dragging her out. Just bureaucracy processing another envelope in a city drowning in paperwork. Inside the envelope, 3 documents. David Chen's original algorithm blueprint with Leonard Monroe's notary stamp. An email exchange showing Marcus and David's roommate relationship. A patent comparison showing identical code architecture filed under Marcus's name 1 month after David's death, and a note in Keisha's handwriting. "We need to talk about David Chen, and my father, Leonard Monroe, and what you stole. You have 1 week to contact me. Otherwise I contact journalists." She'd included her phone number, bold, possibly stupid. But she needed to know how he'd respond. The call came 6 hours later, not from Marcus. From a lawyer. Smooth voice. Expensive education evident in every syllable. "Ms. Monroe, this is Richard Weston from Carver & Associates. I'm calling on behalf of Marcus Sterling regarding your recent correspondence." Keisha was folding laundry in her apartment. Maya was at school. She put the call on speaker and kept her hands busy. "I'm listening. Mr. Sterling is concerned by your allegations. He has no knowledge of the individuals you mentioned. He developed his technology independently, through years of research. Any suggestion otherwise is not only false but potentially libelous. Then he won't mind if I share my evidence publicly." Pause. Recalculation. "Ms. Monroe, Mr. Sterling is willing to discuss this matter civilly. Perhaps you've misunderstood the timeline of events. Patent law is complex. It's possible your father worked on preliminary concepts that Mr. Sterling later refined independently. My father's notes document theft, not refinement. Notes aren't proof, and accusations without foundation can have serious legal consequences. For you, there it was. The threat wrapped in professional courtesy. Are you threatening me, Mr. Weston? I'm advising you. Mr. Sterling is prepared to be generous. He recognizes you've experienced financial hardship. He's willing to offer compensation in exchange for a confidentiality agreement. $50,000, more than fair for documents of dubious legal value. $50,000. Her rent for 2 years. Maya's medical bills covered. The weight lifted. Keisha stopped folding. Stared at her phone. "I'll think about it. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer expires. And Mr. Sterling's patience expires with it." The line went dead. Keisha sat on her couch holding a towel halfway folded. $50,000 for silence. For letting Marcus keep his empire. For accepting that men like him always won. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Take the money." Don't be stupid. People who fight Sterling lose. She deleted it. Then blocked the number. That night she couldn't sleep. Kept calculating. 50,000 versus principle. Security versus justice. The practical versus the right. By dawn she'd made her choice. She picked up her phone and called the journalist. Samuel Chen answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was cautious. Journalists dealing with tech billionaires learned caution early. Keisha had found him through obsessive research. He'd written 3 investigative pieces about Silicon Valley fraud. Good work, thorough, ignored by mainstream outlets but gaining traction online. "Mr. Chen, my name is Keisha Monroe. I have evidence about Marcus Sterling, about stolen intellectual property, and a death I think you should investigate. Send me what you have. I'll review it. The death was David Chen. Any relation?" Silence. Long enough that Keisha thought the call had dropped. "What do you know about David Chen?" His voice had changed. Personal now, sharp. "I know Marcus Sterling built his empire on David's algorithm. I know your brother died in a convenient accident, right before the patents were filed. I know my father tried to protect David's work and was ignored." "My brother," Samuel's voice cracked. "You knew David?" "My father was his patent attorney. Leonard Monroe, another silence. Then, we need to meet. Today, I'll come to you. They met at a coffee shop on neutral ground. Samuel was 42, tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He carried a worn messenger bag and looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Keisha spread the documents across the table between them. Samuel's hands shook as he read. His finger traced his brother's handwriting on the original blueprints. Tears formed but didn't fall. I knew, he whispered. I always knew Marcus was involved, but I couldn't prove it. The police ruled it accidental. Marcus had alibis. No evidence. Just my gut and grief. Now we have evidence. Now we might. Samuel pulled out his laptop. Started taking photos. But Sterling has power, money, lawyers who can bury this. We need more. We need other victims. A pattern. They worked for 3 hours. Samuel made calls, sent emails, used journalist networks to trace Sterling Tech's history. Found 3 other cases. Engineers who'd worked with Marcus early on. All left the company abruptly. All signed NDAs. All refused to talk when contacted. They're scared, Samuel said. And they should be. Sterling destroys people who challenge him. As if summoned by mention, Keisha's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Ms. Monroe? A woman's voice, clipped, official. This is Eleanor Price from Child Protective Services. We've received concerns about your daughter's living conditions. We need to schedule a home visit immediately. The coffee shop tilted. Keisha gripped the table. What concerns? From who? The source is confidential, but we take all reports seriously. Can you come to our office tomorrow at 9 a.m.? If you refuse, we'll need to escalate. The call ended. Samuel's face had gone pale. He's already moving. That's not coincidence. That's retaliation. Keisha's phone buzzed again. Text from her landlord. Building inspection found code violations in your unit. You have 30 days to vacate, then another. Her manager at the restaurant. Need to talk to you tomorrow. Some complaints from customers. Not good. 3 attacks in 3 minutes. Coordinated, precise, message clear. Keisha looked at the documents spread between them. Her father's handwriting. David Chen's genius. 20 years of buried truth. What do we do? She asked. Samuel packed his laptop. We fight. But you need to prepare. Marcus Sterling doesn't just win. He annihilates. By tomorrow you might lose your apartment, your job, maybe your daughter. So I should take the money? 50,000 for silence. I'm saying you need to choose. And live with the consequences. Keisha gathered the documents. Her hands were steady. The fear she expected hadn't arrived. Instead, she felt clarity, cold and absolute. I choose truth. Whatever it costs, Samuel nodded. Then we move fast. Before he can destroy everything. That night, Keisha packed essential documents into a backpack. Important papers. Maya's medical records, photos, the things you grab when running. She didn't sleep. Watched her daughter breathe easy in the dark. Wondered if she was being brave or reckless. At 3:20 a.m. her phone rang. Unknown caller. She answered without speaking, heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice. Distorted, electronic. Your father died before he could stop us. Your brother too, Samuel Chen. Accidents happen, especially to people who ask the wrong questions. The line went dead. Keisha sat in darkness holding her phone. The threat was clear, real, lethal. She thought of David Chen's car accident. Her father's sudden cancer. Coincidences that maybe weren't. Then she thought of Marcus Sterling's smirk. His casual cruelty. You people. The fear finally came. Not the crushing kind that paralyzed. The fuel kind that ignited. She texted Samuel. They just threatened us. I'm not backing down. Are you? His response came immediately. Hell no. We end this. Keisha looked at her sleeping daughter. Then at the evidence that could destroy an empire or destroy her family. The choice was already made. Had been made the moment glass shattered on marble floor. She just had to survive long enough to finish it. The eviction notice arrived Thursday morning. Keisha held the paper in her kitchen. reading the same words repeatedly. 30 days, code violations, uninhabitable conditions, legal jargon that meant homelessness. Maya sat at the table eating cereal, unaware her world was collapsing. "Mommy, why do we have to move?" Keisha folded the notice, smiled. The mask she'd worn for years. "Just some apartment stuff, baby. We'll figure it out." But Maya wasn't stupid. 9 years old and already reading adult faces for danger signs. Survival skill from unstable childhoods. Is it because of money? It's because of a lot of things. The restaurant had fired her Wednesday. Customer complaints. Unprofessional conduct. No specifics. No appeal. Just done. Her final paycheck wouldn't cover next week's groceries. Child Services had scheduled the home visit for Friday. Keisha had scrubbed the apartment until her hands cracked. Organized every surface. But she knew it didn't matter. They weren't coming to inspect. They were coming to build a case. Samuel hadn't called in 2 days. His last text, lying low. "They're watching my apartment." The 3 engineers who'd worked with Marcus early on had all declined interview requests. One responded through a lawyer. "Drop this or we'll sue for harassment." The evidence sat in Keisha's backpack. Useless without corroboration. Meaningless without platform. Just papers documenting theft that no one would publish and no one would believe. She sat on her couch in the dark after Maya went to sleep. The city glowed outside but provided no warmth. She thought about the $50,000. Gone now. Rejected out of principle that felt increasingly stupid. Her phone buzzed. Bill collector. "Third one today." She declined the call. The apartment was silent. The kind of silence that amplified every fear, every doubt, every voice saying she'd made the wrong choice. That dignity didn't pay rent. That fighting power just meant getting crushed by it. She thought of her father's grave. The headstone she visited monthly when she could afford flowers. What would Leonard say? Would he praise her principles? Or would he tell her to protect Maya first? To take the money? To survive? Her mother's voice came instead. Firm, unmovable. "Some things are worth more than survival, baby girl. Some things are worth dying for." But Keisha wasn't dying alone. Maya would suffer. Already was suffering. The fear in her daughter's eyes at dinner. The questions she didn't ask, because she was trying to be brave. Keisha pulled out her father's documents. Spread them on the coffee table one more time. David Chen's handwriting. Marcus Sterling's theft. 20 years of injustice in Manila folders. She remembered Marcus's face. The smirk. The contempt. You people. And beneath the despair something stirred. Small. Stubborn. The thing her mother called dignity, hardening into fury. They wanted her silent. Wanted her scared. Wanted her to disappear like David Chen and countless others who'd challenged power. But she was still here. Still breathing. Still holding evidence that could burn everything down. Keisha picked up her phone. Found Samuel's number. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Then she pressed it. He answered immediately. "Keisha, I'm still in. Whatever it takes. Tell me what we do next." Silence. Then a long exhale. "I found someone. Someone who might help. But it's risky. Everything's risky now, tomorrow. I'll send you the address." Come alone. The call ended. Keisha sat holding her phone in the dark. Maya's breathing came soft from the bedroom. The sound of innocence worth protecting, or worth fighting for. The address Samuel sent led to a walk-up in Chinatown, 3rd floor. Unmarked door. Keisha climbed stairs that smelled like ginger and old wood. Samuel waited on the landing, looking thinner than 3 days ago. Hunted. "This is Marcus's first partner," Samuel said quietly. "The one who helped him incorporate Sterling Tech. They had a falling out. He signed an NDA, but he's dying. Stage 4 liver cancer. Doesn't care about consequences anymore." Inside the apartment, an old man sat in a wheelchair by the window. Chinese features weathered by age and illness. His name was Henry Liu, 80 years old. Former tech investor. One of the first to recognize Marcus Sterling's potential. You're Leonard Monroe's daughter. His voice was surprisingly strong. I knew your father, briefly, good man. Honest man, Keisha sat across from him. You knew what Marcus did? I helped him do it. No shame in his voice, just fact. David Chen came to Marcus with the algorithm. Marcus saw its value, saw David's weakness. No business sense, no protection, just genius waiting to be exploited. So Marcus killed him? Henry's expression didn't change. The car accident was convenient. I don't ask questions I don't want answered. But after David died, Marcus moved quickly, filed patents, brought me in to structure the company. I provided capital and connections. He provided the algorithm that he stole, that he acquired. We don't use the word theft in business. We say leveraged opportunity. Samuel leaned forward. Why are you telling us this now? Because I'm dying. And because I'm tired of pretending money makes you clean. Henry coughed, painful, wet. I have documents, emails, financial records showing how we buried David's involvement, how we paid off the investigating officers, how we silenced your father. Keisha froze. You silenced my father? Not directly. But Marcus had connections in the medical industry. Research trials. Experimental treatments. Your father was desperate, dying. Marcus offered access to cutting-edge care in exchange for the original patent files. Leonard refused. The care was denied. He died 6 weeks later. The room tilted. Keisha gripped the chair arms. You're saying Marcus let my father die? I'm saying the world is crueler than you want to believe. Can let powerful men write their own rules? Samuel pulled out his phone, started recording. Will you testify to this? I'll do better. I'll give you everything. Every document. Every email. Every piece of evidence that Marcus Sterling built his empire on corpses and stolen genius. Henry wheeled to a desk, pulled out a USB drive, held it like a grenade. This contains 20 years of crimes. Patent fraud, bribery, witness intimidation. 3 other engineers Marcus destroyed. NDAs purchased with threats. A paper trail proving Sterling Tech is built on systematic theft. He handed the drive to Keisha. Your father tried to stop him. David tried to stop him. I helped him succeed. This is my confession, my penance. Use it however you want. Keisha stared at the drive. Innocuous black plastic containing nuclear evidence. Why now? Why not years ago? Because cowards don't confess until they have nothing left to lose. Henry smiled, bitter. I'm dying. Painfully. Slowly. Seems like a good time to tell the truth. They left with the drive and 3 banker's boxes of physical documents. Loaded everything into Samuel's car. Sat in silence processing what they'd gained. This is enough, Samuel finally said. This destroys him. Completely. If we can get it published, if media outlets will touch it, they will now. With Henry's testimony. With financial records. This isn't hearsay anymore. It's documentation. Keisha held the USB drive. Thought about David Chen, her father. The engineers silenced by NDAs and fear. 20 years of stolen lives contained in tiny storage. What do we do first? Samuel started the engine. We make copies. Lots of them. Send them everywhere. Journalists, lawyers, ethics boards, patent offices. We flood the system so Marcus can't suppress it all. Then we go public. He'll retaliate. You know he will. Let him try. We have nothing left to take. That wasn't quite true. Keisha still had Maya. Still had the fragile hope of keeping her daughter safe. But Samuel was right about one thing. They were past the point of retreat. They spent the next 18 hours making copies, uploading files to encrypted servers, sending anonymous packages to 20 different journalists, creating redundancy. Marcus couldn't erase. By Saturday evening, the trap was set. Samuel sent one final email to Marcus Sterling's personal address. Subject line: David Chen says hello from the grave. The body contained 3 attachments. David's original algorithm, Henry Liu's confession, Leonard Monroe's patent files, and one sentence, press conference Monday, 10 a.m., City Hall steps. Come prepared to answer questions. The world is watching now. They sent it at 6:47 p.m. Marcus's response came in 7 minutes. Sterling Tech's emergency shareholder meeting was Monday at 9 a.m. Marcus had moved fast, called the meeting Sunday night. Mandatory attendance. The media called it crisis management. Samuel called it panic. The shareholders gathered in Sterling Tech's top-floor conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, the aesthetic of power. 50 faces representing billions in investment. Marcus stood at the head of the table in a charcoal suit. Controlled, composed, thank you for coming on short notice. Some unfortunate allegations have surfaced. Baseless, we're addressing them proactively. Keisha and Samuel sat in the public gallery. Shareholders couldn't bar observers from open meetings. Corporate transparency laws. Marcus knew they were there. His eyes found Keisha's for 1 second. Flat, reptilian. The allegations concern intellectual property from 2 decades ago. A former associate making deathbed claims. Disgruntled individuals seeking attention. We have lawyers prepared to... Mr. Sterling. Keisha stood. Her voice carried across the silent room. You're describing my father as disgruntled. Leonard Monroe, the patent attorney who tried to stop you from stealing David Chen's algorithm. Security moved toward her. A shareholder held up his hand. Let her speak. We want to hear this. Marcus's jaw tightened. Ms. Monroe is understandably emotional. Her father handled preliminary consultation on early research. That doesn't constitute... I have documents. Keisha pulled out a folder. David Chen's original algorithm. Dated 3 years before you claimed to invent it. Patent applications my father filed on David's behalf. Emails showing you and David were roommates. Financial records from Henry Liu showing payments to suppress investigation into David's death. The room went silent. Shareholders exchanged glances. Marcus smiled. Cold. Documents can be fabricated. This is clearly an attempt at extortion. Ms. Monroe approached me weeks ago demanding money. When I refused, you offered me $50,000 to stay silent. Keisha's voice didn't shake. Through your lawyer, Richard Weston. I have the call recorded. Want to hear it? A shareholder stood. Margaret Chen. Asian woman in her 60s. Steel gray hair. She'd been silent until now. Mr. Sterling, David Chen was my nephew. You told me he sold you the algorithm before his death. That he died with no outstanding claims. Are you saying that was a lie? Marcus's control slipped. Just a flicker. Mrs. Chen, I assure you, because I've spent 20 years mourning a nephew who supposedly threw his genius away in a tragic accident. My brother Samuel Chen has been investigating for decades. You called him a conspiracy theorist, threatened legal action if he continued. Samuel stood beside Keisha, pulled out his laptop. I have Henry Liu's full testimony. Video recorded. Notarized. He details exactly how you and he structured Sterling Tech on stolen technology. How you bribed police investigators. How you denied Leonard Monroe access to cancer treatment when he refused to hand over patent files. The room erupted. Voices overlapping. Shareholders demanding explanations. Marcus's lawyer jumped to his feet. This is inappropriate. These allegations are unsubstantiated. We'll sue for defamation. Here. Keisha threw the USB drive onto the conference table. It skidded across polished wood. 20 years of evidence. Bank records, emails, witness statements, patent comparisons. Everything you tried to bury. Marcus stared at the drive like it was a bomb. His composure shattered completely. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I know exactly who you are. Keisha's voice was steel. You're the man who stole my father's client's genius. Who let my father die rather than face consequences. Who built billions on corpses. Who mocked a waitress because you thought I was nobody. The room had gone completely silent. Every eye on Marcus. But nobody is nobody, Mr. Sterling. and the truth doesn't need permission to exist. A shareholder reached for the USB drive, then another, hands passing it around. Marcus watched his empire disintegrate in real time. This meeting is over. His voice barely controlled. Legal will handle this. All of this, no. Margaret Chen stood. This meeting continues. We need immediate review of these allegations. And Mr. Sterling, you need to recuse yourself from leadership pending investigation. You can't, we can. And we are. Security, please escort Mr. Sterling from the building. Marcus's face went purple. This is my company. I built this. You can't just, you built it on theft. Margaret's voice was ice. My nephew's theft. Leonard Monroe's silence. And 20 years of lies. You're done, Marcus. Security approached. Marcus looked around the room. Found no allies, no escape. Just faces reflecting disgust and fury. His eyes landed on Keisha one final time. You think you've won? You think this ends here? I'll destroy you. Your daughter. Everything you... Mr. Sterling. The head of security touched his arm. Time to go. They escorted him out. The boardroom doors closed. 50 shareholders turned to Keisha and Samuel. We'll need complete copies of all evidence, Margaret said. And we'll need your full cooperation with a forensic audit. Keisha nodded. You'll have everything. Samuel squeezed her shoulder. Outside the windows, the city spread below. Noon sun hitting glass towers. A world that looked different now. Not because it had changed. Because the lies holding it together had finally shattered. 6 months later, the settlement was finalized. Sterling Tech's board had voted unanimously to remove Marcus from all positions. Criminal charges were pending. Patent fraud, witness intimidation, conspiracy. The DA was building a case that would take years to prosecute. But civil court moved faster. David Chen's family received controlling interest in the algorithm patents. 40% of Sterling Tech's value. Margaret Chen became interim CEO. She restructured everything. Renamed the company Chen Monroe Technologies, a fusion of the two families destroyed by Marcus's greed. Keisha received 30% ownership through restitution judgment. Compensation for Leonard Monroe's stolen work. For years of silence purchased through threats. For Maya's suffering. For everything. The number had commas. Plural. More money than Keisha had imagined in her most desperate fantasies. She didn't take Marcus's office. Didn't want the taint of it. Instead, she built a new space. 10th floor. Windows facing east. Morning light. She furnished it simply. A desk, comfortable chairs, and one photograph. Her father in his old office, smiling at paperwork spread across his desk. Maya visited after school most days. Did homework in the conference room. Met the engineers. Asked questions about algorithms and code. 9 years old and already curious about the technology built on her grandfather's principles. The restaurant sent flowers with an apology letter. Keisha sent them back with a note. Some apologies come too late. Do better for the next person. Henry Liu died 3 weeks after his testimony. Peaceful, according to his daughter. His confession freed him before the end. Keisha attended the funeral. So did Samuel. So did Margaret. Paying respects to a man who'd chosen truth over comfort in his final days. Samuel had taken a position as Chen Monroe's head of ethics compliance. He spent his days investigating other cases of stolen intellectual property, finding patterns, exposing fraud. The work his brother's death had begun, finally given institutional support. Marcus Sterling had disappeared after posting bail. Rumors placed him in Belize, or Singapore, or hiding in a Montana compound. His assets were frozen, his reputation destroyed. His empire redistributed to the people he'd stolen from. Keisha stood in her office on a Tuesday evening, watching the sun set over the city. Her emerald green blazer hung on the back of her chair, the same one she'd worn to Sterling Tech months ago. She'd kept it, A reminder of the person who'd walked through those doors with nothing but evidence and fury. Her phone buzzed. Text from Maya's school. Maya received an award today for her science project. She's so proud. Wanted you to know. Keisha smiled. Texted back, tell her I'm proud too. And Grandpa Leonard would be proud. We'll celebrate tonight. She looked at her father's photograph, wondered if he could see this, if somewhere beyond death, Leonard Monroe knew his work had finally been recognized, that his daughter had finished the fight he couldn't. The truth had been worth it. Every risk, every threat, every moment of terror that Maya would be taken. Worth it, because some things were bigger than survival. Some things demanded witness, even when witness meant sacrifice. Keisha picked up her bag and headed for the elevator. She had a daughter to celebrate, a life to rebuild, an empire to run ethically. The waitress who'd served Marcus Sterling champagne was gone. The woman who'd walked away owning his company remained, transformed, unbreakable, free. Spring came to the cemetery with gentle rain. Keisha stood at her father's grave holding a manila envelope. Maya waited in the car reading, giving her mother privacy for whatever this was. The headstone was simple granite. Leonard Monroe, beloved father, devoted attorney. The dates of his too short life carved in stone. Keisha had memorized them years ago. But today felt different, complete somehow. She knelt on wet grass and placed the envelope against the stone. I finished it, Dad, everything you tried to do. David Chen's family has their recognition. The algorithm is theirs now. Marcus Sterling is facing justice. It took 20 years, but we got there. The rain continued soft and steady. Keisha didn't move. You taught me that truth matters more than comfort. That dignity isn't about what others give you. It's about what you refuse to surrender. She paused. I almost surrendered. Almost took the money. Almost let him win because fighting seemed impossible. A bird landed nearby, watched her with black eyes, then flew away. But you didn't raise me to accept impossible. You raised me to question it, to demand better, to stand when everyone else sits. Keisha stood, brushed wet grass from her knees. Her father's photograph smiled from beneath the envelope. Young, healthy, full of the idealism that had defined his too short career. They thought you were nobody. Dad, a small-time attorney without power or platform. They thought they could erase you, steal your client's work, bury you in silence. She touched the cold stone. But nobody is nobody. Every person carries truth worth protecting. Every voice matters, and the powerful only stay powerful when good people choose silence over disruption. The rain eased. Sunlight broke through clouds. The cemetery glowed green and gold. I disrupted everything. For you. For David. For every person Marcus Sterling tried to erase. And I'll keep disrupting. That's my legacy now. Our legacy. Keisha walked back to the car. Maya looked up from her book and smiled. The smile that made everything worth it. The future Leonard had worked for without knowing. The justice that transcended death. As they drove away, Keisha glanced in the rearview mirror. The cemetery receded, but the lesson remained. Truth doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for convenient timing. It simply exists, demanding witness from those brave enough to speak it. Some people measure success in money, others in power. Keisha measured it in sleep, the kind that came without nightmares, without fear, without the weight of surrendered dignity. She slept well these days, and somewhere she believed her father finally did too.